Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tales from the Infrared. We took a break last week. We should have had a show, but we didn't. But we are back this week,
I
and
blame that asshole who's always doing the show notes.
yeah, I wonder who that could be.
I don't know.
Jim. Anyways, we actually do have quite a good show for you this week, actually. So can't be too hard on Jim. He actually did get some really good topics this week. So, and of course, introducing everybody. Joining is Jim Calvarn. Hello, Jim.
Welcome, everybody. New favorite anime is Rosario to Vampire.
Jeez.
It's
Oh,
actually
and
good.
Dean just joined us. We also have a Dean Esme. How's it going, Dean?
You are all now allowed to have a show. I am here.
Well, we were going to have a show anyways.
Oh, you bastards.
Rachel Edwards, our resident honey badger. How's it going, Rachel?
Oh gosh, I'm really digging the Sonic sunglasses. So yeah.
You're
It's great.
finally catching up. That's awesome.
Yes.
Finally. I wonder if
Fantastic,
Jim's
yes.
catching up.
I have watched all the way up to episode 5.
Excellent.
Well, last week's episode was really, really good. Nefanor Afral is also with us. Nefanor.
Facebook, fuck you.
Yes. And of course, running the back room and making sure everything runs smoothly, it's James Huff. How's it going, James?
It's going just fine.
Rolling into the show, who's going to take us through the topics? It's not going to be Rachel again because it's always...
No, it's
Not I.
because he came late.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Are the show notes on A Voice for Men by any chance?
Well, I could do them. I got them in front of me right now.
Go for it.
All right, topic number 1. It's true. Captain America is now Captain Leftist. Marvel goes full SJW ideology by turning the greatest hero into a walking advertisement for the left. This doesn't just destroy the memory of the character, it craps on all of his legacy. And number 2, boycott Star Wars 7 and why the internet is trolling itself to death. The reaction to the obvious trolling of mainstream media getting caught doing what they do best, which is not their jobs, makes for a funny reminder to always check out who's telling the story. This was just hilarious. And speaking of Star Wars The Force Awakens trailer. The official trailer for one of the most anticipated movies of all time has come out. We discuss what we have seen and everything we love or hate about it. No more MythBusters. The show will say goodbye in 2016. For 13 years, hosts Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman have built crazy contraptions and blown stuff up in the name of science. But after conducting 2,950 experiments, bursting 1,050 myths, and creating 900 entertaining explosions, the pair will say goodbye to the MythBusters series this winter. Hands-free technology in cars hardly danger-free, study finds. Many cars today have technology that is supposed to fight distracted driving, but a new study by the released Thursday shows how going hands-free can be more dangerous and distracting than first thought. The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety study found using the voice-controlled system in cars that syncs to smartphones can distract drivers long enough to go not 1 football field, but 3 once they've finished using it. And finally, YouTubers are forced to go red or have their videos removed. YouTube has started coercing their content providers to go red. YouTube Red is the new pay-to-view service that will allow users to watch videos ad-free. But if it's so great, why are they forcing people to sign up? All this, Doctor Who, some breaking news from Nefanor, or at least that's annoying dit.dat that he does, and more from Tales from the Infrared. Where do we want to start?
I'm kind of sad about the MythBusters because that is like one of the best shows I've ever watched.
Well, I think it was pretty obvious once they let the 3 go. Carrie and Grant, and once they gone, I think it was kind of over.
Well, it's not about whether or not they were there or not. the show stood very well, debunking all the myths. Yeah, I mean, Carrie, Byron, and Grant were able to do a little bit more, and you were able to pack more into the show. But to be honest, it was all about Jamie and Adam anyway.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but they
that's
had,
basically how
Yeah.
it started.
Yeah. Well, I think this is just kind of what's happening as a result of all of the educational broadcasts, whether it's Discovery Channel or National Geographic Channel, all turning over to reality television instead of doing documentaries. They don't do documentaries anymore, not really. And now they're just they're struggling to survive, and I guess that's really kind of what it's saying, because MythBusters was the show that everybody watched, and once people found that they could watch that on Discovery Channel, people brought in other shows like Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe and all these other things. What was it, the fishing one, which is Deadliest Catch? They started bringing in increasingly more stuff until there wasn't any content that anyone recognized anymore. It's just it's basically reality television for old people now.
Well, that's when networks typically make their biggest mistake. I mean, the Space Network here, Space, the Imagination Stations, what they used to call it here in Canada, it used to be all Star Trek because people would tune in to watch Star Trek. They would literally have back-to-back episodes of Star Trek. They would have an episode of the original series, followed by an episode of The Next Generation, followed by an episode of DS9, and then Voyager, and then once Enterprise went into syndication, they started bringing that in too. Just MythBusters was that for the Discovery Channel. It brought people to watch the Discovery Channel because people wanted to watch MythBusters. But it's been going on for 13 years.
16.
It says 13 here.
But actually, to be perfectly honest, that's not why I watched Discovery Channel. I watched Discovery Channel for the documentaries. I know, crazy, huh? But and when MythBusters came on, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's really interesting. But I ultimately went there for all the documentaries on ancient Egypt and the dinosaurs and history and everything. And now it's all gone.
Now it's all about aliens.
Yeah.
I thought that was history now.
Yeah, that's History Channel. History Channel is about aliens and the guy who
aliens and Pawn Stars. I mean, History Channel has Pawn Stars.
God.
Which of the networks is the one that has Storage Wars?
I don't know. I don't remember.
mean,
I don't even.
It's garbage.
It is. It's all garbage reality TV.
And
Discovery Channel used to be all about MythBusters and Daily Planet.
no, it used to be about documentaries, dude. Like, I remember when it was about documentaries, wildlife documentaries.
Yeah, but that stuff all went to like other channels, like National Geographic started like
And now that's gone.
Nat Geo Wild.
Yeah,
they're all
and
specialty
and now
channels.
that's
You have to
gone,
pay
too.
extra for them. But I mean,
And now
the
that's
Discovery
gone.
Channel was always supposed to be about science.
Well, now up here in Canada, they have Discovery Science, and I think that's what they're doing. They're splitting off into little tiny sections and then keeping them in separate little packages where you have to buy all the packages to get just the right mix of good channels.
No, thank
Yeah.
you. I'll stick with watching TV on my computer.
Do you know what? I got to be honest. I may be the heretic in the conversation. I don't think I'm going to miss MythBusters that much.
Heretic, burn him!
I mean, I understand. After more than a decade of being on the air, I understand why. I mean, they must be running out of myths to bust, and they might just want to move on and do something else with their careers. They run Tested, which is it's a show that they do. They also have a YouTube channel. And they have a few other people that work with them on that. But after almost a decade, I mean, they might just want to move on to something different. And that's fine. I am going to miss the show, don't get me wrong. I loved MythBusters. I'm always going to love MythBusters. But if they want to move on to something different in their career, that's fine by me. It's been over a decade, so They put in their time.
I was
would
also.
like to know. Go ahead, Dean.
I'm actually going to be a little harsher. I was getting tired of it. I think they ran out of interesting things to do that you could easily test in their kind of environment, right? There's only so many urban legends to debunk before most of it becomes obvious anyway, and you're going to get into a creative rut. And I think it showed on the show. I would be watching it and it's like, guys, you're really trying to make something big here that isn't that interesting, right? So, I mean, with any creative project, even something like this that's sort of loosely based around science, if nothing else, you need a break, right? Maybe they could go off the air for 5 years and then come back with a few specials here and there, But like otherwise, it just feels like they felt like they were in a rut, and I lost interest in the show. I liked them, but the show felt like it was in a rut to me. So I think they're making it right,
It did get to the point where it was like almost like they had to ham-fist an explosion into every episode.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying, right? We've run out of really crazy, stupid shit. So let's just find,
let's blow some shit up out in the desert.
Yeah. Let's create some tension just because we need some, and that's, So I'm glad, and I'm not even being critical. I'm like, no, good. They figured it out, and they're gonna quit, and now they can quit without everybody hating them.
Now they may have tried to ham-fist explosions into every episode, but they always wrapped those explosions in they always wrapped it up in some good, interesting science. Even towards the end, when they were in their rut, it was still interesting science. I mean, to me, anything that's science is interesting, but that's just me.
Yeah. But good for them. I think we all agreed. Hey, they had a wonderful run, and awesome. Whatever they're going to do, I want to. Whatever they're going to do next, awesome.
I would say I'm glad that they're coming out on top. But what I want to know is, was it their decision? The only thing I really want to know, was it Jamie and Adam's decision, or was it History Channel's, or not History?
Discoveries.
I
don't know whose decision it was, but like I said, I mean, after doing it for more than a decade,
And hey, Grant can get back to doing giant robots that he was building for Robot Wars, since that's back on the air.
No, I think he's still doing Star Trek. What is it? Star Trek the.
Oh, that independently crowdfunded Star Trek Continued or Reloaded or whatever
Star Trek
it is?
Continued. Yeah, Star Trek Continued or Star Trek Continues. Which is really fucking well done, by the way. I mean, they look like episodes from the original series. They went so far as to recreate the cinematography. Really fucking good job on that. I've seen a few episodes.
I have too. It's pretty. They did a nice job.
Not my cup of tea, but I might have to check it out eventually.
Well, you kind of got to be a fan of that old series, which I am.
I wasn't a
Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a magician.
I wasn't a huge fan of the original series, but every once in a while I'd catch an episode and it was cool.
And maybe we should welcome Schultz to the show.
Nah.
Yes. We have a Schultz.
Yeah, howdy guys.
Hi.
And I do agree, it's about time that they retired because they were kind of running on empty for several years.
But MythBusters is over. I hope it comes back with a few specials, as Dean said, might be the case.
Christmas
I hope
specials.
I hope that happens.
Santa.
I hope that happens. Because there's always going to be new myths to bust. I mean, as a species, as a civilization, we basically build our civilization on stories and myths. We just do.
Yes, we do.
And it's fun to put those myths to the test. It just is.
Yep.
Especially when it involves explosions.
If Discovery is listening.
I would like to talk about a myth. A specific myth. The myth that people were going to boycott Star Wars Episode 7.
Oh my god.
That's a hell of a myth.
Nice segue.
That was a troll. It was a troll, and the mainstream media and the SJW bloggers just lapped it up. Why? Why? Because they're not concerned about the facts. They're concerned, and they are desperate, absolutely desperate, to prove that correlation equals causation. They are fucking desperate to prove that. They want to prove that because there are some racists who play video games, that video games cause racism and the entire video game community is racist. They want to prove that because some sexists play video games, that the entire video game industry is sexist. They are desperate, and they will eat anything up at face value without doing any independent research themselves.
I had someone sit there trying to tell me that because racists glommed onto it, it was no longer a troll. I'm like, no, it started as a troll. It's still a troll, and it fucked everybody. It's saying it's no longer a troll because racists agree with it does not necessarily make it anything less than people being idiots and saying, see, this proves it. No, it doesn't. Just proves you're an idiot.
Yeah, and what baffles me is that people could not see this as a troll thing from a mile away. I certainly did. I'm like, no, I really did a boycott Star Wars. Oh God, this is a troll. The moment I realized that the reasoning was supposedly for racist stuff, I'm like, oh God, yeah, it's 4chan trolls. And then you check.
You knew it was trolling as soon as you read the title. Boycott Star Wars.
Yep.
Bullshit!
Who the fuck is gonna boycott Star Wars? I mean, you're gonna watch it or you're not. I mean, and the whole racist reasoning thing of no genuine fans of this would actually boycott based on race, because there's always been people of different races in Star Wars, especially in the newer.
Different races, different species.
This is where nerds and I call them muggles at this point. Nerds and muggles collide, because nerds had a legitimate complaint about Black Stormtrooper. What was the legitimate complaint?
The fact that all the stormtroopers were clones of Jango Fett. Now, I can sit there and argue against that. I mean,
the original stormtroopers were, not the current.
Yeah, the original stormtroopers were, but the stormtroopers had a shelf life that by the time of Episode 4, they all would have died or degenerated to a point of no longer being useful. They needed to have replacements.
See, there you go. You just gave the correct nerd answer, which is to discuss the finer points of the canon and what the significance of the Black Stormtrooper actually is, which actually doesn't have a fucking thing to do with anything. He could have looked like, Chinese or actually a really white Nordic-looking dude, and everybody would have been like, "What the fuck?"
Here's the thing. No. And this is an important point too, and this is discussing the canon. Yes, it is true that in the Clone Wars, all of the stormtroopers were clones of Jango Fett. They were. However, the cloning facility was destroyed, which means no more clones, which means the Empire had to find some way to recruit new stormtroopers.
Not just that, the people who were running the cloning facility refused to do it.
Which is probably why they got destroyed.
Yep.
But getting back to my point, the Empire was known to be racist and speciesist. If you weren't white, you were actually looked down upon. So having a black stormtrooper, still kind of out of character, to be honest.
Yeah, but you know what? Desperation makes you drop a lot of your ideology. After the Emperor died, after Vader died, I mean, they were left leaderless almost. So they had to do something.
Well, I was just about to say that here's the other thing is you saw how J.J. Abrams in the beginning, he didn't want to touch any of the extended lore, so it's like trying to figure out, like, okay, is this the extended lore that the clones are destroyed, or do we have some new reason?
Extended lore is nerd code for hating black people.
Shh, they're on to us. Don't say it. Don't give them tips.
Well, okay, first off,
And women.
I want to point out how much that extended lore brought to the Star Wars universe. The extended universe is what's kept Star Wars going through episodes 1 through 3, which still don't exist in my opinion. But
no, I would argue since 6, because if you look at the extended lore, it went to the books, and then for my generation was a lot of video games. And
no,
then
what I'm saying, Schultz, is even the extended lore, extended universe started after the first movie came out with the comic books, some of the books, and it carried it through, including the dark times of episodes 1 through 3.
Gotcha.
The extended lore is what has kept Star Wars in the cultural zeitgeist for as long as it has been.
Well, I think the success of the success of the original trilogy has a lot to do with that. But fact is, nobody is going to boycott Star Wars 7. Nobody, especially after the trailer that was just recently released. I mean, it's a space opera again. It's going back to being a space opera, not this.
Finally,
not the tech demo of fucking the latest CGI film technology that Lucas wanted to show off with the prequels. It's going back to being a space opera. That much is clear in the trailer, and it has me so fucking excited.
I'm going to be the guy.
The Star Wars that we loved.
I'm going to be the guy who everybody's going to hate. And I'm going to be the guy that Futrell and other people start to...
Oh, that's just normal stuff. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it, but I'm going to point this out. It's no longer actually Star Wars because it no longer follows the story of the Skywalkers and that line. At least the one redeeming quality I always considered from episodes 1 through 3 is it at least followed the Skywalker line, and it was that story. However,
I'm going to make an argument against that.
Hold on. However, as of this one, it's starting off with somebody else, and the original characters become secondary. It also, what happened to, I mean, you have Han and Leia who in the expanded universe got married, had kids. What's going on with that? I mean, you could tell they loved each other. You could tell that they were where they were going. What happened?
Okay, I'm gonna give this to you in a way that okay, here are my predictions for this based on the trailer. And if you actually think about I'm predicting and putting forward here, I think a lot of this makes sense. The thing that they're going for in this, or what it seems to be from my perspective, is that they are portraying the decline of the current government, everything rebuilt after the fallout of the Empire and everything. But one of the things that disappeared was the idea of the Force, the Jedi. All of those things disappeared, and they just seem like a legend now. And so the whole idea of the movie is that now Sith are reappearing, and now that means that other people are going to be called into action to take up the mantle of Jedi once again. And I think that's actually what we're going to be seeing here. I think that the main story is actually going to be taking place around the daughter of Luke and Leia. But also there's this other guy.
Daughter of Luke and Leia? You mean Han and Leia?
No, Luke and Leia. Sorry,
incest lover.
Sorry, my brain was like fried. You know what I mean? I'm going on autopilot.
She hasn't had coffee yet.
Shut up. But you know what I mean? Han and Leia. God damn it, brain.
But that's the thing
Anyway.
is. It's not. It's not the daughter of Han and Leia.
How do you know it's not the daughter of Han and Leia? How do you know that it's not the daughter of Han and Leia?
Simple.
You don't.
The reaction that they had in the trailer, where they meet him and he's like, "It's all true." If it was the daughter, they would have already known that.
Exactly.
Okay, I haven't seen the third trailer yet. I have not seen the third trailer yet.
Sacrilegious.
Then you need to go back and watch that before you start making any kind of prediction.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I have been upset with Star Wars for a while, and even I knew more than you, dude. Come on.
Rachel.
Oh, come on. We don't know. Right now, it's all speculation.
Basically, yes. Right now, it is all speculation. I mean, I'm looking at the IMDb page right now,
Come on.
and the girl, Billy Lord, she's not even being given a character name. She's listed as a cast.
Wait. Billy
but
Lord?
there's Billy Lord.
You're talking about Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yes. She's on the cast. She's credited. She's actually the second name under Mark Hamill, so her character is pretty fucking important, but there's no character name. There's no character name. They're not they are not revealing the character's name.
Or it could be Luke's daughter. We don't fucking know.
I don't think
but
so.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling.
There's actually one theory that I've heard going around that Luke went to the dark side.
I have a feeling that that's not the case. That's far too predictable.
First
I
off,
think
no, I'm not even going to go it's far too predictable. It goes completely against the character of Luke, because all you've got to do is go back to Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Jedi, as his father was before him.
It would be way too. It would be a
complete. Yeah, it would be a complete flip the script of the character.
Exactly. It would.
And
Mark Hamill.
Hang on, guys.
No Star Wars fan would.
If you take the movies right from Episode 1 through 6, it was supposed to be Anakin Skywalker that was supposed to be the chosen one. He was predicted to be the chosen one, and then he went to the dark side. His son, during Episodes 4, 5, and 6, was predicted to actually be the chosen one, the one to bring balance to the Force.
Do you really want me to sit there and argue this?
If they go further and they say, oh, wait, no, Luke went to the dark side and now it's Luke's child that's supposed to... Like, really? How many times are you going to keep fucking... How many times are you going to keep saying, oh, shit, no, this one actually went to the dark side and it's their child? You can't keep going like that.
No, yeah, I don't
There's actually a couple of things on that one that I'm gonna sit there and throw out. One, if they make the Stormtrooper Luke's child, I'm out. I mean, no, you're basically recycling the plot of the original.
Nobody's talking about the Stormtrooper. Nobody's talking about the Black Stormtrooper being Luke's child.
He's the one that's gonna be.
It's the girl in the trailer. Now, who is the girl? She is credited. She's the second name on the IMDb list of cast, but there's no character name.
She's not the one holding the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, hold on.
That's a very good point.
Here's the other point that I want to point out. They say that Anakin was the chosen one and he would bring balance to the Force. Remember, the Sith, there was always two. The Master and the Apprentice. What happened with Anakin? He brought it down to two. The Master and the Apprentice for both sides. Technically, if you really think about it, he was the chosen one, and he did bring balance to the Force.
He did throw the Emperor down the hole.
Okay, actually, no. He actually set everything out of balance. If you really think about it, he actually set everything out of balance at that point. But the reason why I think he's the guy behind the mask is I don't think he's actually the villain. I think that actually that is a form of misdirection, that there was something that Vader was actually working on, something perhaps in defiance of the Emperor, that there was something there's a secret that is unknown to all of us. And
have you ever played The Force Unleashed?
No.
You're starting to sound like the plot of this next movie is nothing more than The Force Unleashed.
Yes, I played it.
The Force Unleashed was literally that.
I'm saying that if there is a secret, that if there's something that needs to be wrapped up, that there's something unknown to all of us that Luke is trying to do as some kind of masked man to appear to be some kind of villain or something like that that everybody else doesn't completely understand. I don't think he's actually a villain. I don't think he's actually gone to the dark side. I think he's trying to fight a darker presence overall, probably.
Well, technically, that's also in the extended universe when he supposedly when he joined the Emperor's clone.
Yeah, I believe it was Dark Force Rising.
He basically joined the Emperor's clone to learn the dark side, and then he destroyed him permanently.
Well, I mean, I think the whole point of this movie is going to be that the balance will have been completely destroyed, because if people don't even remember the Force, people don't even remember the Jedi, they don't remember the Order. If there's no Jedi out there, then there's no balance to the Force, and it needs to be brought back into place somehow.
The problem with it is if you look at the extended universe, it always followed a very logical pattern that there were going to be Jedi that got away from the Purge. There were a few. They weren't many, but there were a few. And Luke started up the new Jedi Academy. That very well showed that Luke was the one who brought balance to the Force versus Vader. But like I pointed out, you can argue that, Vader did bring balance to the Force by cutting it down to only a couple for each side.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made there that bringing balance to the Force means not letting any one side win out.
You are right. Technically, then having only two Force users, being that woman and the Black Stormtrooper, would actually make a lot of sense, because there's always been two Sith.
Well, we don't know that either. We don't know who Billy Lord is playing.
We will see. But we do know one thing, that she is not the Master.
Who is?
Well, we know a lot of. We actually know a lot of things.
Master.
Smithy's the Master.
Oh God.
Anyway.
I watched those Doctor Who episodes, and I'm like, okay, it's gotten better from last year, but meh.
Actually, I think the first two episodes redeemed from last year.
I'm not on your side at all on that one, Jim. This is like, if this had been season one of Peter Capaldi, we'd all be going, what an awesome Dr. Peter Capaldi is.
I'm not saying that he's not phenomenal. I've liked Capaldi the whole time. It's fucking Clara.
Well, okay. Let me just here's what I think. The series is better across the board, period, now. And if this had been his first season, we would have been talking about what a knockout the whole thing was. They're actually having to redeem a pretty weak first season for Capaldi. That's all I'm saying. And this second season has been great, I think. I've liked all the episodes, and I've really liked... what they've done, in my estimation, is they have clearly decided Peter Capaldi is better in intimate one-on-ones and small groups and stories that involve that, rather than the big planet-busting, empire, flibbity-blib, whatever. He's better one-on-one with people in an intimate setting.
Oh, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. He does a phenomenal job, and I've liked Capaldi the whole time. It's just a lot of the scripts he was given were crap. And
for him,
I think, well, for him they were crap, especially the last season. This season, I think it's gotten better, but I think a lot of last season just wore on me to the point where I'm just like, you're gonna have to work harder to win me over. You know what I'm saying?
Well, as we'll just say, I loved watching Missy just beat the shit out of Clara for an entire episode. That was nice.
It felt so good inside.
It
Well,
was
you know
just
what?
rough.
I think
But
it was
I
because
also-
Stephen Moffat actually was listening to us and how we were complaining about Clara for so long.
We know that Stephen Moffat listens to every episode and does what we say. So, we're grateful to him for that. But no, really. I mean, it was.
Yeah, he listens to us so much that Maisie Williams is actually going to be the next permanent companion. She's going to replace Clara.
You're calling that now?
Or has that been decided?
Well, they kind of set it up. I mean, last week's episode, and it's a week old now, so I'm not spoiling anything. If you
That's
haven't
right.
seen it, fuck you.
Yep.
No, this week's gonna be
in last week's episode, they sort of set it up. I mean, Maisie Williams played a character, a Viking, who died, but the doctor saved her with some technology. It's like a portable med kit, like a chip that went into her brain. But now she's basically immortal. I mean, barring any sort of
I don't think
really,
that's
really
just...
fatal accidents, she will live basically forever.
I don't think that's just the only way they set it up. They also set it up in one of the previews where she was like, "It's about time."
Yeah,
It's
and where the
fucking-
doctor
that's what this
recognizes
week's episode's going to be. It's going to be.
That's what this week's episode is going to be. But I think they're setting up Maisie Williams' character, Ashilda, to be the next companion.
I doubt it for one simple reason.
Game of Thrones.
Exactly. She's got too much on her plate for that.
I don't know if you're right, only because of the scale of that show. She may not, she may be done with her entire season of filming in a month because of the way they shoot
Yeah,
that
but
thing,
the
right?
Like the way Game of Thrones
shooting is
no the
9
way
months out of the year.
the way Game of Thrones is set up, the way that show is structured, Maisie Williams may see 3 to 4 minutes of screen time per episode. That's not a whole lot of filming that she has to do.
Yep. She'd be fantastic. She's a great character as Arya Stark. She seems to be playing a very similar. I mean, she's kind of the same, but it doesn't matter. She's really awesome. I really like her. She would be perfect as a companion, but
I think she would play off the Doctor better. I don't know if they're going to actually bring her in permanently, but what I'm looking at is 9 months of filming for the Doctor, sometimes even longer, versus maybe a month of time on the Game of Thrones. That's going to be interspersed over a long period of time. When is she going to have time to do stuff for herself?
well,
Yeah, I don't think she's going to take it, and I don't think they're going to offer it. It's just too much.
I think it's too
Unless of
Like-
course Arya isn't going to be around much longer. I mean, in last season, you remember she got her eyes burned out. I mean, unless they're going to come up with something clever for Arya Stark in Game of Thrones where she can still be an effective assassin without sight.
I'm just going to say this. Arya is Martin's wife's favorite character. So
Which
let that
is
sink in.
pretty much makes her doomed already.
No,
We're
That's
talking
the one
about George
character
R.
you
R.
won't
Martin
touch.
here. We are talking about the guy. We are talking about the writer who kills off a character just because they get popular.
Yes, but this is one character he won't because he's got to live with this person for the rest of his life.
Not necessarily, but yeah, I get your point and your thought process behind it. I think it's possible, but I think it's also possible he could be throwing her out. But I'm still looking at the shooting schedule. Yeah, it's probably, for Doctor Who, it's probably better that they spend all their time focused on Doctor Who and don't try and do other projects for the most part. Because look at how many projects, what is it? Billy Piper, the woman who played Donna Noble, David Tennant. How many actual projects did they do outside of Doctor Who while they were doing Doctor Who? To this point, not a whole lot. Even Tennant only did one Harry Potter film that he appeared in for a couple of minutes, and another Harry Potter film that he appeared in for about twice as long.
Well, I thought he was still playing the Doctor in that.
I'm just saying I don't think there's 9 months worth of actual shooting for Doctor Who. There's a lot of that time is spent with writers in a room writing the episodes. I think they might do 4 months worth of shooting for Doctor Who. And then
let's just cut it. We don't know what their shooting schedule is, but really, she would be able to handle 2 series. She could, because there's not that many episodes of Doctor Who, and there's not that much she has to be on set for Game of Thrones either. There's bigger challenges. It's not like she's the star of her own show. So she could do it. It would be a question of logistics. Could they? Couldn't they? I'm looking though. I see no evidence that they're talking about bringing her in permanently. Jim's probably right. They don't have time. I think they could do it, but you're probably right. But
yeah, but she
would be a fool not to jump on it.
But I'm telling you, Stephen Moffat, if you're listening, which I know you are, Maisie Williams is the next companion. I want that.
Hey, I'm not going to disagree. I actually would like to see it, and I believe way back I was saying she would be a great replacement for Clara.
I've never been anti-Clara. I've always loved Jenna Coleman. I don't
really like the character.
I've always liked the character. I've always liked the character, but Clara as a character worked better off of Matt Smith's Doctor than she does with Peter Capaldi.
That's what I'm saying is I don't have a problem with the character. I have a problem with the character and Capaldi's Doctor.
Well, one way or the other, I think we're all agreed, well, at least most of us are agreed, I want her to fucking go. I'm tired of her. Get rid of her. Clara, you suck. The best thing about Clara all year was watching Missy beat her up for an entire episode. It was awesome. Because I hate Clara. I'm the only one laughing at this? Rachel, did you see the episode?
No, I was laughing too. I was laughing
Actually,
too.
it was beautiful. It was magnificent. It was like...
over a cliff, into a trash can, just throw her off the ledge. It was awesome.
Oh gosh, it was fantastic.
Put her in the Dalek, throw her off a ledge, handcuff her to
Doctor to destroy the Dalek.
Yeah.
Almost kill her inside the Dalek.
Use her as bait. Almost get the Doctor to kill her. I mean, it was fucking hilarious and shows how sadistic and evil Missy really is.
Yeah.
Which
actually, it made me like her a little more.
If you watch the first episode, where she just basically killed a couple of people outright just because she could, and then she goes around and does this stuff to Clara, I think it shows how sadistically evil she really is. But what I think was even more important that you should notice is I think it was more a case of she used Clara for what she wanted, but I don't think she really has any dislike for Clara. You know what I mean?
Yes.
No, she totally does.
Oh, I think actually she did dislike her.
Oh yeah, she totally does. I mean,
in fact, she's jealous.
Yes, she is very jealous. She is so envious. If you have any idea about the relationship between the Master and the Doctor, you know that Missy is completely jealous that Clara is the one that gets to fly around in the little blue box, and she isn't.
It's a fair point. I'm just saying it seems more like she has less desire to really actively hurt Clara as to just fuck with her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, she'd kill Clara if it meant getting what she wanted. She'd kill Clara. There is only one person in the entire universe that the Master would not kill, and that's the Doctor.
Yep, exactly. In any case, I'm enjoying this series, and I'm at least going to stand by my judgment. Peter Capaldi's run as the Doctor, if it had started with this season, we would all be talking about how phenomenal. Rather than trying to like it, we'd already all be on board. But
Oh yeah.
whatever. What was the next story anyway? He said with a clunky segue.
We can talk about YouTube.
Let's go with YouTube.
YouTube announced that they're actually going to be rolling out YouTube Red, which is a new subscription service. You pay something like I don't know what the price is. I think it's like $10 a month or something, and it is ad-free viewing. Basically, you're paying $10 a month, and you no longer need any ad blocker for YouTube. However, they are starting to coerce content creators to go Red and to provide their content through Red. I think it's exclusively through Red, which means that if they don't, they're going to start deleting videos off of people's YouTube channels.
Do you really think so? That's just horrible. I can't.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I personally think they're going to probably do something like that because they're pretty much the only show in town for most viewing. I mean, Twitch is the only thing that could compete with them, but that's pretty much just live streaming. I think they used to have Blip, and Blip went down, and that was at least a decent competitor to YouTube for a while until I think they made one mistake and it kind of just gutted them.
Yeah, and I think we're watching the slow but sure decline of YouTube itself. Not the people that are creating content. It's the executive choices on the part of Google, and they realize just like how hardcore they fucked up with trying to force the integration between Google Plus and YouTube, and we were all watching all of it and how clunky everything was. They just managed to screw everything up. And now they're sort of trying to slowly back away with the Google stuff, and trying to I guess reorganize. But all of their executive decisions, whoever's fucking making them, is messing up massively. Why would you fuck with this model? Why would you do that? Why? It makes no damn sense. I understand that they're trying to be like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna give you a service and give it to you streamlined. It's like, who would pay for YouTube? Who? Like, the whole point of it is that you get to watch all of these things free, and that before all that, when a lot of us were younger, the access to media like that was so hard to come by that we just we valued every piece of it. We had to pay for all of it. It was terrible. And now everything is so easily accessible with YouTube and everything like that we've taken it all for granted. The moment you start charging money is the moment that everything just kind of goes down the tube.
Well, I think that's the problem, is the fact that Google is trying to charge for this stuff. I mean, regardless of whether it's ad-free viewing or not, I think people are willing to take a little bit of advertisement in order to watch it for free. It's cheaper. It works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people are going to sit there and want to pay the subscription for YouTube Red. I do know that in the article it says that the YouTube videos will still be featured on regular YouTube. It's just no advertisements with YouTube Red, and people will still watch the stuff on YouTube. I mean, there's no reason to sit there and watch YouTube Red, pay for YouTube Red. I think this is a mistake on Google's part.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody's getting greedy, and it's going to bite them in the ass.
Well, I think the other reason why they're doing, I've heard a lot of content creators getting frustrated with ad block. I think this is their way of kind of trying to find a middle ground where the YouTube creators actually still make some money, But I think it's horribly implemented because, I mean, ad block, that's all you have to pop in to stop this. And most advertisements are not obtrusive when they're on the videos, but it's the sidebar that usually gets a lot of people mad. And I understand the reasoning behind it, but it's just being poorly implemented. And since YouTube's the only game in town, I don't think this is the wisest move in the long term, though I do hope some other competitor pops up to kind of shake YouTube's crown.
Well, there is a competitor. It's not the greatest competitor, and it doesn't pay its content creators, and that's Vimeo.
Vimeo? Oh no, well then again, I've not really heard it. Then that's my fault.
Yeah, I mean Vimeo still allows you to upload content, but it doesn't pay you for it. Google's the only one. YouTube's the only one that actually pays you for the content. Granted, it's not that much, but do they have a competitor? Vimeo, yes. But let me ask you, if you're going to have a choice between getting, say, $5 for uploading a couple of videos versus nothing for uploading a couple of videos, most people are greedy motherfuckers and going to go, I'm going to upload to the place that pays me back.
Well, I wouldn't even say that's greedy. It's just natural because you're creating work. You're creating content. It seems natural to actually want, if you really want to be paid for it, type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Greedy.
I'm kind of being a little
Smart
over
ass.
the top. Yeah, smart ass. I mean, it should be obvious by now. I'm a little bit of a smart ass.
And a bit of a dumb shit.
Well, thank you so much, Nephenor. That insult coming from you, I take as probably one of the highest compliments I've ever had on this show.
Wow. That's amazing.
He has pretty low standards, doesn't he?
No, it's the fact that you actually go out of your way to insult me. The fact that you spend so much time trying to craft these insults and send them my way. I'm just like, hey, you know what? You're giving me so much of your time to feel.
You're getting recycled shit just like you are, so you know.
Oh, see, he keeps going through this so often.
Are we really doing this? Are we really doing this?
We can.
Let's get back to
Mortal Kombat!
Okay.
Speaking of insults, Captain America.
Oh God.
Yeah, I can tell who wrote the show notes just from the way that was written.
Okay, first off, that is not Sam Wilson anymore. That is not the character that has been presented in Marvel comic books for 30, 40 plus years. That is an SJW, period. That is leftist ideology, period. That is not the character I've read for 40 fucking years. And by 40 fucking years, I mean going back and reading some of these comic books over the decades.
You mean you don't like how Alex Jones hopped on there?
Okay, Sam Wilson used to be a social worker in Harlem. Okay, he used to be a guy who helped people take responsibility for their lives and improve their life situations. He's basically gone complete SJW. You're the victim. It's somebody else's fault. That is the exact opposite of who he was for 40 fucking years. I'm sorry, when you sit there and you change a character fundamentally, the fundamental basics of who this character is, that pisses me off. When they announced that they were going to make him the new Captain America, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. You know, he's been Cap's best friend forever. He's fought alongside Cap. He probably knows Cap and the way he believes. He's been right there, pretty much supporting the same things Cap has forever. He's a logical choice, and I'm like, cool, no problem. It's when I saw this issue, and he's coming out like a complete social justice warrior, and saying, you know, it's like I'm going to fight against the right. and conservatives, and conservatives are bad. It's like, no, that's not Sam Wilson.
One
You
clarification.
you just don't like him because you're racist.
Oh, fuck you.
One clarification. Was this after the... did they remove Captain America's death, or is that still stable?
No, they brought him back through some twisting and whatnot.
Okay.
They just took away the super soldier serum again. I think that's like the third time. And they let him get old, and now he's a general, and I think he's in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So what you're saying is that Nick Spencer, the writer of the new Captain, went up behind the Cap, stabbed him in the back, gutted him, and is now writing his corpse.
Something like that, yeah. And while he did it, he was dressed as the Falcon.
Now this is going
Add
to turn
insult to
some
injury.
seriously fucked up slash fic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try and take this discussion to a more productive area. Instead of talking about who Captain America isn't or shouldn't be, let's talk about who Captain America is. Not as a specific character, not as Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson, but as an icon. Who is Captain America?
Well, that's very easily pointed out. He's someone who stands for freedom and liberty. He's someone who stands for the American dream, as it has always been, the ability to improve your situation and make a better life, not only for yourself, but also for your children and your grandchildren.
Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps mentality.
Yes.
So in other words, SJWs have taken over Marvel and have turned that icon into a give us help, please.
Not even that. I think they've just completely reversed the iconography of the character. It's like they've changed who he is on a fundamental level to where he is the exact opposite of what he's always stood for. And I think that's
updating it for a modern audience.
Here's the other thing. That change doesn't even seem to be like a natural evolution of the character. It just seems like, okay, we're just doing it now type of thing, which is even worse. Which, I mean, it would make sense if he evolved that way for whatever magical reason, whatever BS reason, but doing this like, okay, now he's an SJW out of nowhere, that is just horrendous story writing.
Yes. And like I said, I mean, if you look at Sam Wilson over the years, he's gone right along the same thought process as Steve Rogers. It's like they're just flipping the character complete 180.
Well, let's take a look at some of these supposed social issues, and let's try and discuss and find out where the icon, Captain America as the icon, would stand. Gay marriage.
Let me get a shot. Let me get a shot.
Gay marriage. Would Captain America be pro or anti-gay marriage?
He would be completely pro on the basis of if straight people are allowed to have it, gay people should be allowed to have it. We're all human beings. There should be no question. Period.
Well, I wouldn't even just say on that period. I would say because sexuality doesn't seem to be any of his personal business. He understands that's a private matter, and yet again, if they want to get married, that's their own business, type of thing.
That's true too. I mean, it's just the freedom and liberty to do as you wish.
Yeah, I was gonna say because everyone says conservative, but I think they're using the social conservative, not like he seems like a classical liberal, classical conservative, like just meaning small government and letting people do their own shit type of thing, not like in the modern sense that we have it mixed in with social issues, which is just completely a nutter.
So are you saying that progressivism has completely perverted the entire political process and made it completely divisive?
Yes.
Always has been.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of whether of how you want to look at it, the old saying, there are three things you don't talk about: politics, religion, and relationships. Well, the more accurate way of putting it is you never talk about these three things with someone: politics, religion, their politics, their religion, and their relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
because
Captain America
those
does
will
do
always,
those values.
yeah, those will always start a fight. And Cap has always been someone who fights for, basically let people live their lives. Give them the freedom and liberty to live their lives to the best of their ability.
And only when he'll step in only when someone's pretty much squashing on that right and freedom.
Yeah. I mean, you go back when they rebooted Captain America the last time before they killed him. One of the first couple of issues, he was fighting against terrorists who were coming in and attacking human liberties on U.S. soil. It wasn't, and they were taking people in a form of slavery, and also killing people outright. And that's when he stepped in.
The last time he went to Germany and he saw a man standing over others, him and that man disagreed.
Yeah, but now you have Sam Wilson being that guy who's standing over others and saying this is not right.
No, that's a perfect representation of SJW mind thinking and modern progressivism.
Yeah,
it doesn't stand for America or what he is, but that is the modern trend of those people.
Yeah, and that's why I say, that it completely flips the iconography of the character.
There is one possibility. What if Sam is being mind controlled and later will come out? And later it will be an arc where he was being controlled and this is what happened.
Oh, that's their
safety.
That's retconning shit.
I was going to say that's retconning for safety.
Well, let's talk a little. I actually want to talk a little bit about the villain in this new comic series. They're calling him the Serpent.
The Serpent Society's been around forever.
Yeah, but he's not who you think he is. He's not. They're not, going with the ISIS terrorist angle. The Serpent is a conservative American who is somewhat anti-immigration. He's basically he's basically Trump. Yeah.
Well, the question is, does he have the hair?
No, he doesn't have the Trump hair. But yeah, it's let's demonize conservatives. Let's demonize anybody who disagrees, anybody who has wrongthink, regardless of whether or not it. I mean, I'm starting to sit there and say, okay, these people are saying this stuff is so bad. What's really so bad about it? Because, I mean, a broken clock is only right twice. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to wonder, how wrong are they? Is it possible that Trump might be right?
Well, one of the bigger things you said.
I know we're getting into a political discussion here, but still, it's one of those. When people are sitting there saying, "No, you're wrong because you're wrong," my first question is okay, you have no logical argument. How?
This is why I want reason in politics, because this is getting to the point, and it's blatantly obvious with American politics. It's starting to go that way here in Canada with our politics. Everything is divisive. Everything is us versus them. There always has to be some wedge issue that completely polarizes the entire nation. But it doesn't polarize the entire nation. It only polarizes about 20% of the nation. But the media spins it so that we believe it's everybody. And it's not. I mean, the majority of the population are moderates and reasonable people, and they just want politicians who are going to tell the fucking truth.
And if our political, see, this is where I get into it with some of my conservative friends, and I mean old school conservative friends. Hi, Schultze, who like to argue that what we need is a republic, which is led by men of principle who will stick to the intent of the Constitution, and as long as they stick to principle, then the republic will hold. And the old theory is that democracy will be mob rule and will destroy us. And my usual argument is that's exactly backwards and wrong. And what you need is your democracy massively more representative with lots more voter participation and lots more political party, which means all the ideas are being represented when they're being debated. Every point of view actually can get heard, and a consensus can emerge.
And Captain America as an icon was always the person to stand up. He was always the person to stand up and say, whatever choice on this issue, if the choice limits the liberty and freedom of the people, it is the wrong choice.
Yes.
And that's it. End of story.
Yeah, well, and that's because Captain America is supposed to signal. Captain America is supposed to represent certain American ideals or how we would like to think of ourselves. Whether we actually are that or not is
the ideal American type of thing.
Who's got a dog? And will you please mute your mic if so?
That would be Schultze.
Okay. And so of course Captain America will always take the principled stand, right? The only difference is, where does he find himself when his own government is not living up to those standards?
He has stood against the government. Steve Rogers has told the government what they've done is wrong and said, I will not represent you, and taken off the costume many times.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the character of Steve Rogers. That is the character of... That is how he's always been portrayed, is someone who takes the principled approach. It may not always be the best path, but it's always the correct path for him. He stands for what he believes is right.
So what is this fucking stupid shit they're trying to do now? It's
cram a narrative down our throats.
Yes.
And really, I mean, why don't we just go full SJW, him, somebody who just rapes and murders people of color, because that would just fit the narrative, wouldn't it? Why don't we just make him a serial killer and somebody who murders at random because that's their view of us, right? I mean, seriously, no, I'm with you. Why can't Captain America just be Captain America, please? Sorry.
Captain America is not the icon that represents any sort of political side. He represents the American people.
He represents the idea of the American
not the government, the people.
He represents the idea of American patriotism as well, though. We love the country, we love our history, we love the values we stand for. Yeah.
Well, you might, but I'm Canadian, so.
That's
love your country, but not your government.
Yeah, the country is not the government.
Right. Yeah. But that's the thing, and in several issues in the past, Captain America has been asked to stand with candidates, and he has said, I will not show support for any candidate as Captain America. He would not take a side in politics. He would do it as Steve Rogers, and he would support the candidate he believed best suited his belief system and what he believes. But as Captain America, he knew he had a responsibility to say, no, I cannot do that. It's one of the great things about Cap is that he did what he knew to be right. And as an icon, as that icon of Captain America, he knew he had to be completely above those things and say, I cannot do this.
Well, they tried it with Female Thor, and that series tanked. I think they're going to wrap up at like 8 or 9 issues.
Thank
Didn't
God.
take a year. That failed miserably. Now
Well,
they're going after Captain
here's something I
America.
want to point out. When a comic
Can't
book
Captain
series,
America be a girl? Sorry.
when actually American Dream, his daughter was, and kind of an interesting character, but when a comic book does not even make an entire year, that says, it's bad. Most people who buy comic books will continue to buy through the first year. It's usually by 6 where it starts stabilizing, and then a year where they decide, okay, this is good, maybe I should continue, or okay, this is kind of going downhill, and I'm going to try putting my money somewhere else. It's just horrible.
It's dying.
It's just horrible. Yeah, and SJWs are killing the comic industry.
No.
Are they destroying it really, or is our Marvel and this is Marvel? I don't know if DC's fallen. They
Well,
probably
it's the ideology.
But that way,
they
you
move
say
out.
wait a minute. You say falling. How about instead they experimented and saw what the market wanted and it didn't work, and they just keep going because they have failed experiments every year anyway. I mean, maybe. This failure of Female Thor, for example, just will send them packing. They'll whine about nerds, and then they'll go do something else, because obviously the comic book people aren't going to buy their shit.
I was going to say, this is the vocal minority. You've had the progressive and the social justice warriors within the last few years being really, really vocal. And I don't doubt that Marvel saw this and went, ooh, we might actually have a significant number of people who would buy this. They just didn't realize it was a vocal minority of morons, jabbering like fools like they are.
Works for me.
Breaking news.
I have a shotgun.
Battlefront 3 is better named Battlefield Star Wars Edition.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, apparently. I played the beta. I have friends who played the beta for Star Wars Battlefront. It's basically Battlefields with the Star Wars skin.
Really?
Is anybody surprised?
Nope, it's
No.
DICE. What do you expect? They can't make any other games.
I mean, and it's actually weird because an actual Battlefront 3 was in development, and it was shaping up to be a really, really good game. I mean, amazing game. It had giant space battles. It had ground battles. The works. It was an actual Battlefront game, and that got canned for whatever reason, and it was handed off to DICE. The entire IP was handed off to DICE, and they essentially turned it into another Battlefield game.
The one thing that pisses me off the most is that there's no campaign. And
There's
for,
no campaign. There
for a
is no
Battlefront,
campaign.
that is a fucking travesty.
It is. There's no single-player campaign. It's multiplayer only. There's only a handful of game modes. I think there's only like 3 or 4 different game modes that are expected to be available on release. They are only planning 4 DLC packs, 4 expansion packs that will only have, I think, 4 maps per expansion pack. And they're charging $190 for the Ultimate Edition of this game.
No,
It is
thank
only
you.
going to be 20 versus 20. It's not going to be 32. It's not even going to be 32 versus 32. It's going to be 20 versus 20.
They're still neutering. Damn it.
And this is why you can't trust DICE to make anything but Battlefield.
And apparently the
even sure you can
vehicles,
trust
the
them to make
vehicle
Battlefields.
combat, the TIE fighters, the X-Wings, even the AT-ATs and AT-STs, basically you need certain pickups power-up pickups that are around the map in order to actually use them, and they're only for a limited time. So unlike in Battlefield, where you could literally fly the jet until you die and still have a chance at getting in the jet, basically you have to get a certain pickup, and then you get like 2 minutes in a TIE fighter.
That sounds like what they introduced in China Rising, which was the bomber.
Yeah, it's just the original Battlefield 3, or not Battlefield, Battlefront 3, that was scheduled to come out. You know, you were going to have space combat, you were going to have ground combat, you were going to have, like the snow speeders. All this stuff was supposed to be there. You look at it, and it's like, okay, this is actually shaping up to be a really great game. And then DICE says they can't do it. Well, if DICE can't do this shit, you need to give it to somebody who, already pretty much did.
I think this actually shows the limitations of the Frostbite engine. Frostbite as an engine, it's a very pretty engine. Don't get me wrong, it's capable of very, very nice graphics, beautiful graphics. However, it really can't do much else. It just can't. They have tried and tried and tried. Battlefield 4 on launch, it had a tick rate of 10. Which was fucking atrocious. And then when they increased that to 30, it was only for, I think, a 150-meter radius around the player, and everything, even vehicles, were still at a tick rate of 10.
What is tick rate?
Tick rate is the rate at which the client and the server communicate with each other.
Yeah, it was relatively. It was slow.
In a multiplayer match, tick rate is very, very important, because if your tick rate is too low, you don't actually get to see where the player where an enemy player actually is. That's basically left all up to predictions and calculations, and that could go wrong really, really easily with a really, really low tick rate.
Or as
want to put it into perspective,
call it the netcode.
If you want to put it into perspective,
please.
Counter-Strike 1.6. which was a game that officially released in 2000. There were beta versions available for a few years prior, but when 1.6 was officially launched from Valve after they bought it, it was, by default, the servers ran at a 66 tick rate with the possibility of going up to 100. Which means that the server and the client were communicating at 100 times per second each way. So client was sending 100 packets to the server was sending 100 packets per second to the client, which meant that less had to be there was less reliance on predictions and calculations, which actually made the game smooth and actually quite accurate in terms of hit detection and hit registration. With a game like Battlefield 4, a 10 tick rate with everything that's going on is atrociously low. It's bad. Very bad.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, with Counter-Strike, you had, what, 8 people on a side?
Yeah. It's a very small game, relatively speaking.
No, I mean, if you wanted to speak strictly esports competitive, it was 5v5. It was meant to be a 5v5 game. However, there were servers that actually had
64.
It was 32v32. There were no 128 player servers for Battlefield 4. There were only 64 player servers.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you look at it,
Counter-Strike actually had servers where you were playing 64v64.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, if you look at it, generally it was very low versus very high, and the tick rates you would think should be a lot higher. for the larger number of people. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. It should be. Even
For-
a 64 tick. If Battlefield 4 released with 64 tick servers, that would have alleviated a lot of the issues.
Yeah, I can see that, but what I'm thinking is, for the number of people, you'd probably want maybe something closer to 100.
Oh, the more the better, but I mean,
Yeah.
you also gotta realize that the more, every single time you double the tick rate, you effectively double the amount of resources necessary for the server to process all that information.
Well, is that
Yeah,
cost
fair
effective for the company, though, if you look at it like this? Because you see how fast these games are put out and how often, like how quickly people jump from game to game. Is it really cost effective for the company to actually have these servers that powerful so you can actually have a decent running game? Now, I personally would say yes, because I'm a gamer, but if looking at a company base, if you know your client base is going to jump to another game in 6 months, 8 months, is it worth to have that powerful server?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm gonna look at it from all aspects. If you want to keep your client base around longer, yes, it is actually worth putting that money into that better server, because the lower quality your server, the sooner people are going to jump anyway. So, I mean, does it make sense to sit there and have a lower quality server where they're going to probably leave, where they might actually leave in 3 months or even 2 months, versus a higher quality? It's all a balancing act. You got to find the right balance. Yes, for cost effective, yeah, you're going to have to look at that. Okay, yeah, 6 months, 8 months, but Battlefield, did they stick around for 3 months? Are there still people playing it?
Yeah.
Well, those are the hardcore players. I look at if you look at most of the DLC bought up by most of the people who play it, it's relatively low. So I think they're looking at those type of numbers, like the far end, like who's going to stay here the longest, and see how much. I see them looking at like how much can we screw them over before they type of leave. Like let's make them at the least happy kind of thing, because most people will buy it. You look at the massive numbers sold by many of these games. It's like a hit it and quit it type of game.
Well, yeah.
Which is a shame. Which is really a shame.
It is a shame. I like those games that last a long time.
Here's the thing. It actually makes sense from a business perspective to ensure that the largest number of players actually stick around beyond that 6-month window.
Yes.
And here's the reason: because with a game like Battlefield, EA is handling all of the server hosting, and there are player-hosted servers. Players can rent servers from EA, and they have to pay for those servers. So that's renewable income. That's income that EA gets every single month from server rental.
Yeah.
The more players that stick around, the more servers that there needs to be, which means the more players who are renting servers.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point, is you got to find the balancing act of everything. At some point, you got to look at it and say, okay, I'm just in it for the money, which is why I don't really care for EA, even though I've gone back to playing Mass Effect multiplayer lately. But I mean, even then, you still have a lot of you still have good servers running the game. I mean, you still have people playing it, and Mass Effect's been pretty much shit canned for how long? A couple of years now?
Well, it pretty much is EA's mantra to just maximize profits and minimize the amount of work that has to go into a game. That's basically their motto.
Yeah, but at some point you got to look at it and say, are you really maximizing the profits? I would say no, they're not.
All I'm saying is that Battlefield 4 should not have launched with a tick rate of 10.
Oh, agreed.
That was fucking atrocious, and it looks like Battlefront is going to be more of the same. I mean, they're lowering the player numbers because of that. I think it's because of that. I'm convinced that the reason why it's only 20 versus 20 is because they want to minimize server load. Because they don't plan on making the engine better. They don't plan on making any of the network features of the engine better. They just simply want to build basically on top of what already exists and put it out as something new.
I would be safe to say most of you guys have at least played Battlefield 1 and 2, right?
I played Battlefield 2.
I was like, would you say, yeah, because I'm going to say Battlefield 2, I thought that was the best one of the series yet far, and I'm going to probably say it's probably going to be the best one of the three because it actually allowed that really complex play, and you could actually play as a fighter pilot, which was probably the best thing about it.
Well, I mean, even Battlefield 2 had some network issues, but
well,
not
look at the
nearly
generational thing.
three
It's a huge generational gap.
But even so, that had 32 v 32. Those were 64-player servers, and it actually ran smoother, despite it being an older engine. It wasn't even Frostbite. It was something else.
Yeah, that was early 2000s, so you're looking at least about a decade difference of technology, and they're still able to pop it really well.
And that game actually it ran well for its time. It really did. Battlefield 3, that launched with the exact same issues that Battlefield 4 had at launch, and it did get better. They actually took the time to fix Battlefield 3. With Battlefield 4, they spent their time on maps, DLC.
Yeah, at some point you got to sit there and say, okay, you're not doing the job. But I think it's time to shift gears.
I think the era of the FPS is coming to a close. I really think that FPS games are not interesting to me anymore, as much as I want them to be, because
they've been oversaturated.
It has. The entire market has been oversaturated with FPS games, and I think it's time to start going to other genres. I used to love RPGs before I got into first-person shooters. I think I might actually go back to playing more RPGs. Fallout 4, baby.
Yeah, not so much, but then I haven't really gotten into any of the Fallouts. That's
Neither
just
have I, unfortunately.
Heresy.
Yeah.
Blow them out
Whatever.
of an airlock.
Which,
I'm
by
more
the
of a
way,
Mass Effect kind of guy.
Fallout 4 is releasing next month. So
2 weeks in a couple days.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
I think we're going to end up taking a couple of weeks off so that Christian can get his Fallout on. You and Dean.
Weeks. Buddy, you won't see me for at least 4 months.
We need to have an intervention.
4 months? Oh, come on, that's a small excursion, and you know it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Are we going to at least see you for the show?
Oh yeah, I'll still pop in for the show.
He'll be playing the game while doing the show.
Okay, that's what I thought was going to happen. Okay, got it. Okay, what else do we have to talk about for the day?
Well, we do have the hands-free technology. Cars.
Yes.
Apparently, the study finds that, hey, I was fucking right. It's not a good idea. Technology will not be a proper replacement, at least not soon, for human drivers. Just won't.
Well, no, it's not the human drivers thing. It's actually it's the hands-free. You know, all the legislation saying, okay, you need to not use your hands on your cell phone and whatnot. And what the study is finding is that the hands-free doesn't do enough.
Well, when you're talking about hands-free, that actually requires you to be using a touch interface, like a display in your dash. Yeah, sure, but there are some hands-free technologies that actually use voice control, which is nice, and that doesn't distract you, at least not for very long. I mean, an incoming call, you just have to say answer call or pick up. And it will answer the call and route the call through Bluetooth through your car stereo.
Yeah, and that I can see as being decent. But even then, I mean, you're still distracted if you're talking to somebody because you're splitting your attention between driving and what they're saying. I hate to say it, and I've seen study. I have to look it up again, but I've seen a study that says that human beings aren't as good at multitasking as everybody seems to think we are.
Well, we're not. That's the thing. We are not. I mean, we have evolved with certain abilities. We can be aware while we're doing a task, but we can't fully split our attention like that. We just can't. That's just not something we can do. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of training for people to actually do that, and even then, it's extremely stressful.
Yes. And pardon me. What I'm looking at is, if it's so stressful, why are we trying to do that? Is it actually better for us in the long term as human beings? Just period for our life.
Well, the question is it better for us or is it better for industry?
Well, even then, I can argue that if it's not better for us, it really isn't better for industry, because if you're burning your people out quicker, I'm going to borrow a line from Dredd, you're just creating human beings who are nothing more than meat for the grinder.
Yeah, but when you're in a situation like, I don't know, the situation we're in now, where there are more people, seemingly more people than there are jobs to go around, employers can justify making that sacrifice, burning out their employees. I can argue that. Because there's always going to be somebody else willing to run the machine.
I can argue that, because having a better quality person running that machine in the long term is much more economical for the employer.
Not really, because then you got to pay out benefits and you got to provide them with all sorts of extra incentives. Whereas if you burn somebody out in 3 to 4 months and then replace them with somebody new, you don't got to worry about all that.
I could still argue against that. And the reason why is because just because you've got somebody new who can do the job doesn't mean they can do the job as effectively. I do a job better after a year of doing it by a factor of at least 3 to 4 times than somebody who's just started on it. Or even how I was after the first couple of months. And I'm phenomenal at what I do. There is, again, a balance that needs to be reached. We're imbalancing everything to the point that we're not being honest with ourselves in a lot of ways. James, I know you've got a thought on this. I know you're keeping quiet, but please say something.
No. I'm listening to this one, guys. Keep going with it.
Okay.
Like, here's the thing: employers don't give a shit. They don't really care how well you do the job, as long as you could do the job without completely fucking up. They don't.
I disagree, because a lot of employers actually care about a person who can actually get the job done in an hour versus an employee who can get the job done in 4.
Depends on the company, and especially the size of the company. A large corporation will not care. A small company will care.
Oh yeah, I'm self-employed. I care with efficiency and talent. You can't really. I can't burn out my people. If I burn out my people, I'm personally screwed.
But a large corporation, let's say a large corporation that employs 10,000 people, what's going to affect their bottom line more? Having to cover 10,000 people worth of insurance and health benefits, or having people who take twice as long to do the job?
Well, that's where I sit there and I laugh at these liberals who say $15 an hour and all this other stuff, because the only thing you're really going to get is these large corporations who can afford to pay all this shit and who are going to burn out the people. It doesn't.
You want to know what the main benefit of a $15 an hour minimum wage is?
What's that?
Turning employees into customers. When you're a restaurant owner and you're paying your waiters and your kitchen staff enough money so that they can afford to eat at your restaurant on their days off, you're actually getting some of that money back.
This is true. And that's the thing. If you put more money into the middle class,
we have to stop
getting more back.
We have to stop with this bullshit belief, this bullshit idea that pumping all of our money to the top is best for everybody. The 1% at the top aren't going to, even though they're making over 2,000 times the median wage, they're not buying 2,000 times worth the amount of stuff.
Oh, I completely agree with you there.
2,000 pairs of the same slacks or 2,000 of the same Toyota Camry.
I completely agree with you there, but what I'm trying to point out is pumping it into the top isn't a good thing. Pumping it into the bottom isn't a good thing. Pumping it into the middle.
Into the middle is a great thing. It's you need a stable.
But you're not
going to
get that. You're not going to get that by pumping it in at the bottom, and that's what everybody seems to think is going to happen.
Okay, here. Let me put it another way. Okay, so you've raised the minimum wage. People get all the money, get more money. They have more disposable income. They buy more stuff. More stuff gets bought. More people need to be hired to pay for to cover the fact that there's an increase of sales. More jobs are created. More jobs are created. More money gets into the economy. It basically creates a snowball effect where it self-perpetuates itself.
One little issue, and I'm agreeing with Jim, which is a really weird thing right now.
Hold on. Let me explain to you why you're wrong, Nephenor. Because all the people at the bottom are not going to be getting more disposable income because all the people at the bottom are getting moved up to a specific point, and what you're doing is you're taking away more from the middle class, and you're putting that into the bottom.
No, you're taking people who are poor and turning them into the middle class.
No, you're not.
Guys.
No, you're not.
Let me explain why you're wrong.
Let me explain.
Economics is not about creating new money out of nothing. It's about making sure that the money gets where it needs to be when it needs to be there.
And where you're wrong, hold on. And where you're wrong is that you're starting off. You're paying everybody from the farmer to his hands, the transportation. Everybody is having to pay more to get the food out there. You're increasing the cost, the basic cost of living, by more than double to triple. You're not creating more of the middle class, you're creating more of the poor.
Actually, and yeah, I can also add upon that. What actually happens, this is assuming that corporations will be fine with all that and won't say, oh, you know what, oh, you want your $15 an hour? What we're going to do is we're going to cut your hours. So now you're getting less hours. You're not getting the hours that you used to get. Because that's what they're doing.
And that's the other part.
Yeah, they're going to cut your hours, and then they're going to try and replace you where they can with machines.
Sorry, go.
So basically the equivalent of a corporation saying, I'm taking my ball and going home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rather than competing in a free market, which is what they're supposed to be doing,
but the problem
whining on Wall Street to the government to bail them out when they make bad
Christian.
It's not a free market if you force people to have to pay specific things.
Here's the thing. When you pump money into the middle class, they're the ones who create the middle-level jobs. They have enough talent and skill to really create these jobs. The really poor usually, not all the time, but usually don't have those talents and skills that's necessary. Because I finally worked into the middle class by hard work, doing my job, and doing this shit. The thing is that if I have a little bit of tax break, if I had that little breathing room, a little money, extra money pumped in, not only would I be able to expand, I would be able to hire those people that are the working poor, so I would be able to pay them. I may not be able to pay them immediately at minimum wage, but I'd be able to pay them a decent wage, and if they have the talent or they show the skill, I could actually increase their profit margin. Because I'm small and middle, I'm able to hit small little bubbles in pockets that need help. With the middle class, when you support their business growth, they're able to grow up in areas where the corporations cannot or refuse to touch. It's why when you say like a $15 minimum wage, it does hurt the middle class the most. It does hurt big business because they look at short-term profits, but if you allow me to hire a person at what I believe their talent is and they prove they're better, almost 90% of middle class workers and middle class companies will be increasing their wages higher than the minimum wage because they realize these people are good, so they're going to invest in them. And the one other issue is with the $15 minimum wage, we're having very unhealthy inflation and deflation going on with our currency. If we stop that, if we stabilize the currency, then the minimum wage will be an even more effective solution.
To be honest, it's not really about the minimum wage. It's about getting more money into the hands of the middle class, whether that's through tax breaks or other things. That I agree with. The problem is they don't seem to want to do it.
Oh yeah, because the corporations pay the fat cats when they're doing lobbying, which is something that is utterly despicable and should be completely purged from the system, from any governmental system.
And speaking of crazy corporations and stupid payment schemes and bad money, there's apparently a group of voice actors who work with video games who are going around with the hashtag Performance Matters, trying to say that they want, get this, royalties on video games they work on.
Why not?
Seriously?
Because
Why
not
not?
even the developers get royalties.
Well, the developers should. I mean, royalties are actually a part of a standard publisher-developer contract. They don't get it in most cases. That's true. I mean, Activision, it was Jason West and somebody else I can't remember.
Vince Zampella.
Vince Zampella and Jason West, who actually took Activision to court because Activision was holding the royalties back for Modern Warfare 2.
Yes,
Modern Warfare 2 actually sold really fucking well. It met the requirements of the contract, but Activision still withheld royalties.
Well, that's a contract, specifically a contract.
Yeah, exactly, and that they are
A specific
basically
contract.
going to use. They're trying to use the Screen Actors Guild, the Voice Actors Guild, to put it bluntly, leverage their way into getting royalties.
Well, I don't know if that's actually a good idea, and here's why. Look at the number of people who go into creating the game and the amount of money that goes into creating the game up front. Where are these royalties going to come from? How much are you going to be taking, and how much are they going how many fewer games are going to be able to be made if these people are getting royalties off it? There's a lot that can be said on both sides of this discussion, but the truth of the matter is unless you've got like $2 million going into something and $200 million coming out of it, royalties on it are not necessarily practical.
Well, the
It's
one
called
thing I'm seeing is a lot of these are Hollywood actors. They're doing this. And they're seeing that Hollywood isn't panning out in terms of the money for them as much as they'd like. So they're looking at video games, which are making money, and thinking, hey, let's get the money out of them.
Yeah, but how
I
much
don't
is
see a
going
problem
into
with
it?
that. I really don't see a problem with that. I mean, when you really think about it, when a band creates an album and it sells really well, they get royalties because it's their performance.
Well, here's the thing. That's a contract. They've worked with a contract.
When a voice actor does a really good performance and it affects the sales in a positive fashion, meaning it makes more people buy more copies of the game, why shouldn't they get royalties for their performance?
But the thing with it is it's based upon the contract. So if these these programmers are putting into the contract, I want some royalty, sure, why not? If the company's willing to do it. The company is not willing to do it, you're going to force them? I'm sorry, that's not free market right there.
Well, no, you don't force them. Yeah, I mean, it's up to the performers themselves to ask for a better contract.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, but they're not. They're trying to do an embargo to stop it. They're trying to say we're going to go on strike and not going to do video games unless you guys give us more.
But if the company does not want to put that in the contract, they don't have to. It's at that point, it's up to the performer to say, okay, I'm not working with you on this project. I'm not going to voice the main character in Black Ops 3. I'm not going to voice the main character in Mass Effect Andromeda. Fine, I'm not going to do it. Find somebody else who's willing to do it under your terms. And more than likely, that developer is going to have to work with somebody less talented.
Yeah.
Well, actually, to be perfectly honest, you don't need voice acting for every single game. In fact, some of the most popular games that continue to be popular don't actually have any voice acting in them whatsoever. Like, how many Mario games have there been? No voice actors. How many? I mean, Minecraft. Minecraft has no voice acting. There's a ton of games that don't require voice acting at all. You don't necessarily need it. It's just like flavor. That's extra. That's extra flavor.
You absolutely need voice acting for a game that is supposed to be a cinematic type experience.
Well, I could argue that Dragon Age.
Where you're wrong in that, Christian.
Dragon Age.
Even better.
Origins, or going back even further, some of the older games. Again, cinematic, you can still read subtitles.
Here's another one. Let's look at The Order 1886. Absolutely wonderful cinematography, wonderful voice acting, shit gameplay. And that killed it.
Okay. Did I say you don't need gameplay?
Yes, but the point
No,
is,
I didn't.
The voice actors are trying to get something that even the people who do gameplay don't even get, and they can't get, because if the programmers and the 3D people and all the artists tried to do this, they would be put out of a job, and the companies would hire somebody new in a heartbeat, because there's a huge there's a huge surplus of people working in video game industry, and they're very easily replaced.
Yeah, and the thing with voice acting is, do they really need to sit there and do voice acting? Not necessarily. It's based upon...
They don't need Hollywood actors to do voice acting for video games. They
Exactly.
don't.
They can go with
They don't need
actors.
it.
They can go with cheap actors.
They could, but like I said, they're not going to get people who are as talented.
Not necessarily.
They're not going to get. They're not going to get that big name to put on the box.
Yeah,
as a selling
that's the thing. That's the point. That's the point. Is the name.
Okay, a big name. You don't know. That's the thing. There's a ton of people out there that are really fantastic actors that are never going to be really good voice actors. Voice acting takes a different kind of talent because most people rely on different things, but when it comes down to voice acting, it really tests your ability to act, your ability to emote. And not every single actor has that ability, so it's kind of ridiculous that they say, okay, well, we need to have these big name actors, and they assume that all of these people are relying on their acting talent to have been a good big name, but not every big name.
Case in point, Nicolas Cage.
And I'd also argue most voice actors, the good ones, you don't notice who they are. You know just their character more than that. And and here's the thing, most gamers, I would argue, most don't pay attention to the big name actor that comes in. Captain Picard for the Oblivion game, he only had arguably a 10-minute segment in there. I'm being generous. Like, he really didn't add that much to the character. Sean Bean, another guy who a nice actor. He did add his character was a very good character, but those characters could have been played by anyone. I mean, I admit
They
that
could have, but the game would not have the same impact.
Oh, I would argue it would have.
Without Patrick Stewart on the box.
I've actually put in mods with different actors for no-name people actors. They were just as good. And that's the thing is that most voice actors.
But it's not a selling point.
Yes,
that's the thing is they never
who's
sold
selling
those
to?
actors as those characters. We found them out after they came out.
The
And-
question is, who's it selling to? Who is that big name selling to? Is it selling to the fans of the game, or is it selling to the random public?
It's selling to random people who have never played a game in that franchise before because game developers want new players. Game developers want to sell as many copies as they can. Bethesda wants to sell as many copies of Fallout 4 as they can. They don't just want to sell
through
to the
content.
existing. No, they don't want to sell to the existing Fallout fans. They want to sell to the existing Fallout fans. They want their fans to have it, but they also want another 10 million people who have never played a Fallout game before to also buy a copy.
You sell it through content, not exactly voice actors. Because if you look at Fallout 3, Liam Neeson is the father. Was he a good father? Did his voice fit perfectly for it, or at least was it good? Yes, it was. But what drew people and new people into the game was not Liam Neeson whatsoever, or his story whatsoever. It was the content, the gameplay, and the other side bit stories. It was the ability to explore.
Yeah, that is what kept people playing. But it was the Liam Neeson. It was his name on the box.
There was no Liam Neeson on the box.
It was his name. It was his name in the advertising, in the marketing. It was his name that got people to look at it to begin with.
No one knew him. No one knew it until it was released. He was kept quiet throughout the whole thing. People were guessing it, but they never confirmed it was Liam Neeson until once the release and people saw the ad after the fact. No one knew it was Liam Neeson from beforehand. And that's the thing is, like, it was so much of the content and the mechanics and the gameplay. Liam Neeson is just an added sugar flavoring on top that it was a nice addition to, but anyone could have played that father figure. And Liam Neeson, go on,
I could
Jim?
argue that, say, Adam Baldwin or somebody else could have taken that role and still done a good job.
Chris Christopherson would have been a nice one if you want to go for big name movie actors, but they're not that great. Even Ray himself admitted it's a lot different acting, and many of them, not Chris Christopherson.
Are any of you actually listening to what I'm fucking saying? I am not saying that a lower named actor couldn't do it. I am simply saying that the developers use that big name to sell.
Okay, those games that you've talked about, they never use them.
Fans.
Christian, to be precise, it's not the developers, it's the marketing team.
The marketing team. They use those big names to sell the game to players who have never played a game in the franchise before. They want their fans to have it, but like I said, they want another 10 million players who have, like, when they got Davies for Call of Duty. When he did some voice acting in Modern Warfare 2, they used his name because they didn't just want the Call of Duty fans to have Modern Warfare 2. They wanted as many other people who have never played a Call of Duty game before to also buy a copy. It's a selling point to get people to look at it. Once they look at it, they use the gameplay and the mechanics to keep them playing and keep them interested.
Kind of like they tried to use what's-her-name to sell Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, that's one of the few ones that they use.
And how well did that do?
But my point is that at some point, the developers are going to sit there and say, okay, you want this much more, I can get this person over here and keep that amount of money that'll cover anything you might actually bring in. At some point, that's going to happen.
They can't have a big name to put into the marketing. They're only going to sell the game to fans who are already interested in buying it to begin with.
Well, that's the thing is, if you there's a difference between selling to other gamers and to those outside of gaming. Most people know those actors outside of gaming, which, like, what was it, Beyond Two Souls you used, Neff?
Yeah, with Ellen Page.
It's like most people in the gaming would probably kind of understand who she is, but you'd be aiming at other gamers from different genres or different
But there's
things.
another reason why Beyond Two Souls didn't really work out is because Ellen Page was also in a little bit of a tidbit with what's that developer's name? Naughty Dog. For apparently Naughty Dog used her likeness in The Last of Us, and so with that, I mean that a lot of gamers saw that as like an attack on the gaming industry almost, and Beyond Two Souls didn't really sell all that well because it was almost like a silent boycott.
It was not even a really good of a
that's
game.
it, though. That whole thing with Last of Us didn't come out until after Beyond Two Souls was released. It was well into its sales by that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
Beyond Two Souls mechanically was really not that good.
All right, I think this might actually be an argument for another day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually time to wrap up anyways. There's only a few minutes left in the show. I'm going to go around the room and ask for final thoughts, as I usually do. I'm going to start with Schultz.
Thank you for having me on, and I enjoyed it. I have to say
shill your stuff.
Check out Red Pill Gamers. I think you'll enjoy it. Chris, you'll be on for another show in the future, and I'd like to talk to you about one of the ideas you had on this show that you were talking about in the future, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, and I got to get going, and Godspeed.
Have a good one. Rachel, your final thoughts.
Discovery Channel, if you're listening to me right now, go forth and bring back Egypt and dinosaurs and history and all kinds of cool shit on your channel. We all miss it. It's fantastic. Please listen. Also, I'm really digging the Sonic sunglasses. I mean, that was really awesome when the Doctor was playing guitar on a car. That was beautiful.
Tank.
No, not car. Tank. Yes, tank. I remember it was tank.
Planet First Fish, remember?
Neff, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, geez, it is the wonderful thing that comes from all dimensions. And remember, devilscontract.com for all your anti-feminist comedy.
Jim.
Well, my final thoughts actually come from my father. Goes back to the Star Wars. Who's to say that the girl isn't Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter, or that the Black Stormtrooper isn't Lando's son?
Possible. James, do you have any final thoughts?
No final thoughts.
And I will simply leave you with this. If the minimum wage was properly indexed with inflation like it should be, the minimum would actually be well over $20 an hour by now. So 15 isn't really asking that much.
Bullshit!
Anyways, take the red pill.